I know people see you walking all over town, and I know you enjoy walking, and you seem to have told me once you had kind of a rule for how you decide when you're going to walk somewhere versus drive. What was that, and why do you like walking so much?
So the rule I use that if it's 2 miles or less, you walk. Now, if it's more than that, I'll even consider it, but I can then build that into the schedule. So why do I walk so much? I like to walk, but I also find that the time when I walk is the time when it's my time. So I get to reflect, I get to pray, I get to prepare for the meeting, I get to process, I come up with ideas. And before I walked, I ran a lot. I still run, but not as much. As you get older, your pace changes, and so I've become OMP, old man pace. So walking still is good. I mean, I still bike, I still do the treadmill and all of that, but if I can, I walk all year long. And when it's icy, I get a little concerned, but I still go out and about and put on my funny hat and off we go.
Awesome.
And people see me all the time, and people know that I walk a lot, and so now it used to be people would stop and ask, do you need a ride? But now they just drive by and wave. They don't offer, which is fine. And I do. I like to walk. It's good. Plus, it's also an issue in reducing our carbon footprint. We're conscious of, do I really have to drive? Which is why 2 miles. Why can't I walk? Why can't we build that into the schedule?
Very good. So I remember right here, a number of years ago, we had a groundbreaking for that building. That used to be a parking lot.
Yes.
So what's the best thing about not having a parking lot there anymore and having a Rupe Hall?
Yeah, well, when you arrive, the whole time you're here, and I suspect after I'm gone, there'll always be the issue of parking. So to take away parking is always of concern. But when you're going to replace parking with something, it better be something that's substantive and hopefully even transformative. And I believe that Rupe being here in many ways has transformed the campus, because it replaced, if you can replace, Sedgwick. We were 47% of all undergraduate education was being done in Sedgwick. And it needed work. So we needed to create a new space for that. And now we're reimagining Sedgwick. So,
You teach in there, right?
I do. I've taught in there. I've taught in other buildings, and it's good space. I think the thing I like most about the building is that there's not just activity going on in the classrooms, but there's all those nooks and crannies where students are always found, and faculty, the students are studying, and the building is really morning, noon, and night, weekends, it's always being used. So it's very alive. So in many respects, it is a metaphor for this notion of transformation, because it's so vibrant. And sorry for taking away the parking, but I hope that's a consolation in what goes on in the building.
Right. The R logo was a nice touch.
It is, yeah. And the R logo really popped once Rupe came in, because before this really was kind of the end of campus, right? And now it's become center of campus, which I think was the intention of the bell tower, right? And the words on the bell tower. So just a great view of that from Rupe, and just the center of campus, and then all of the seasonal flowers that are put in here, whether it's the tulips in spring or the fall flowers or the winter flowers, the summer flowers. It's just become an essential part of campus. And so many students reference, and faculty and staff reference the bell tower. And it's significant for me because it's where I welcome the students. It's when they first come here.
As freshman orientation.
Yes, yeah. So started when I arrived here, and speak about that notion of if we reduce the world to just 100 people with all the existing equivalencies, and say the number of percentage that would not have the internet, that would be in poverty, that would be undernourished, that would be destitute, and then that last piece, that fewer than just 1-2% go to college. And here you are as a privileged part of that. And think about that. So many come back and refer to that. They refer to that. And I say, remember that night, and they do. You know, the students, well now the grads, the alums, who speak about that orientation and recalling exactly where they were and hearing those words. And I thought about changing it a few years ago, and the orientation, don't even think about doing that. That's so important, that's so significant. So.
And right by the quote on the bell tower.
Oh, yes.
It makes it
even
more meaningful.
Yeah, so they speak about putting themselves in a context, right? How they find themselves in the world, and then what's your role in the world? And to hear those words of Father Kolvenbach, you know, to embrace all of the inconsistencies and the uncertainties of the world and truly immerse yourself, to lean into it, you know, and act accordingly. So it's powerful, you know. It's instructive for me as well, right? I think all of this, it's not about just imposing, but it's inviting all of us to transformation. I think that's the significance of a Jesuit education, that we talk about continuing education. Well, continuing education for all of us. It's not something we impose upon, but we walk with, and we're in accompaniment with one another.
So another big change since you've been here is the addition of the Modulus Activity Center. What do you think the significance of the MAC has been for campus, for students?
I think significance speaks in the activity, the amount of activity it's morning, noon, and night. I wish it opened a little earlier. It doesn't open till 6 in the morning.
So you can't get there until 6?
Well, yeah, I'm usually halfway through pretty much through my workout by that time. But it's a great facility, and I'm delighted that it's provided so much activity, not just in the workout, but in the meeting space and locker rooms, and it's become a place for convening. And that's significance, right? I mean, so much takes place not just in the classroom, but in those conversations and those engagements all over campus. So places like the MAC, places to sit, reflection areas, it's all part of the invitation to really reflect upon who you are, where you are at this moment, what is your place in the world, your relation with one another. You know, this whole notion of relationship with God, with your neighbor, and the earth that we occupy.
Well, there's also been a good welcoming space in here, the Jim and Ellen Alumni Commons.
Yes.
For alumni to come back.
It is, yeah. And people really like enjoying it. It's great space because it's got lots of glass and allows you to look out onto the activity, so it's good.
And the reflection space.
Yeah, so the reflection, it's primarily been in the blue lights, but I understand they can do all sorts of different colors with it. So they could change it for various seasons, whether they be liturgical or natural seasons.
So how does it make you feel when you see that logo so identified with the Jesuit order right on the side of that building?
Similar to whether it's the Modulus here, the Activity Center, the IHS, those Greek letters of Jesus, or the AMDG. I don't think of it so much as dedicating a building to God or to the work of God, but rather an invitation for us who are entering to be very, very mindful and intentional about the work we're to be about, whether it's working out or whether it's convening with others. These aren't markers on a building to dedicate it as much as an invitation to be very thoughtful and intentional about who you are and what you're about. So I guess I would call it more of a directive than a dedication. So when I first arrived, we were supposed to build a wellness center, if you recall. It was supposed to wrap around the Mason Halpin and the convocation. And well, truth be told, we thought we had money for it, but there was no money for it. And in fact, we needed to get our house in order first. So took a while to address some other matters. And then it's not only good to see this, but it's good to know that we put this up. It's meeting the needs of the community, and hallelujah, it's paid for.
Yes, always a good thing. So you attend a lot of the sporting events here, right?
I try, yes.
So how many soccer games do you think you've seen here at Brookfield?
Attend as many as I possibly can, but also try to attend the other events as well, whether it's volleyball or basketball or softball or baseball. I just try to be present as much as I can. And it's important for me because it gives me, I enjoy it, but I also know how significant it is to the students because they very much appreciate it. And they remind me when their games are and ask me, am I coming? Am I going to be there? And if I'm on campus, I'm not traveling for other work at the university, I am. And yeah, I think it's important.
It's also a good place to bask in the quietness of Tony Toko.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, Tony, yeah, it's always good to hear lots of instruction coming from Tony.
So if you're not working out in the MAC, if they don't open early enough for you, do you work out in the space here in Massman?
I've used the space in Massman, and we have a little workout space in the Jez Res as well. So we have a little bit of equipment there.
So do you compete for who gets to use that equipment?
Not at the hour I use it. That hasn't been an issue.
We've seen a number of changes on campus since you've been here. What do you think your hope is for Rockhurst in the future?
I think that my hope is our line about, I've said, in the city for good, for both purposes of the good to worry about. Good morning.
Hi.
Good that we're to be about, as well as for longevity, and that's my hope. I think we are very intentional about that. I hope that we continue that, and I'm confident we will. That's consistent with who we say we are as a Jesuit university. Most of the Jesuit universities are found in the urban core, so it's a natural invitation to be a partner with that, and so that's why I identify it and use that line, and I think I hear it frequently. So I think that it resonates with others' reflections and what we're to be about. This is an interesting spot of the campus for me because you think of steps being used to walk up or walk down, but one of the craziest things I ever saw on campus was a car come up the side of Conway Hall, then come down in front of Conway and drive down these steps.
Oh no!
I've only seen that once, and that's probably more than enough. But yeah, it's hard to imagine what possessed the person to take that route. But you know.
So Mason Halpin, nice historical building.
Yes.
Good place to see basketball, right?
Yes, good basketball, volleyball, and our cheer team. And then lots of other activities that students use for. It's good to see them in use, and it's especially good this year after last year everything was just kind of sealed and unavailable, and I think this year more than ever, people really appreciate being with one another and the opportunity to take advantage of the campus, right? This is not just where they study, but this is where they live. This is where they're being formed. This is where they're forming friendships. This is where they're creating their future. This is where, that all of us are being transformed. So people come to the campus and say, "They're a beautiful campus," and we are very, very fortunate. And it's a campus that I think really is small, compact, but truly is designed in a way to have you really think about who you are and what you're about.
What's your favorite thing about Kansas City in general?
That it is a big little town. It has all the amenities, and attractions of a much larger city, but it's scaled in a way that it's accessible, and the people are very welcoming, and most of it you can walk to, and I think I have walked to most of it.
So heading up here toward Khatiri, Khatiri used to be part of the Jesuit residence, but now it houses students. What's it like having students for neighbors?
Yeah, so but prior to it being Khatiri, we just referred to it as Claver East, or as the students say, the Jes-Res. I like the fact that it's an evolution. So the Jesuits living here, well, they originally lived in Sedgwick and then moved to what became Van Akron. And then in 1990, 1991, created these two spaces, but with the thought that as the community became smaller, we would turn one of those over to the use of the university. And I think this has been perfect because this is an intentional community. One portion is for those students who are very focused upon intentional living, really rooted in the spiritual exercises, and another section is focused upon being in sync, in harmony with the environment. And so naming it in honor of Tekawitha is just very, very appropriate, and it's just it's a nice compliment to the Jesuit community. They're not connected. See them, but like neighbors, like we see all neighbors, and think of them as neighbors, right?
So you haven't had to come shush anybody at night?
No, but no, not yet. No. In fact, I joke when students move here and the students that move along the street, I say, well, there is one requirement if you're this close to the Jesuit residence. And they say, what's that? I say, don't call the cops on us. And then I'm reminded of that when they're graduating and they say, yeah, we lived 2 doors down from Jesuits, Father Curran, and we had this pact where Father would say, don't call the cops on us. And the parents just look at me like, what's that all about?
So as we look up now at the construction on this new grotto, the statue of Mary has been such a central part of our campus quadrangle for a long time. Alums remember it. What do you think the impact will be to move her to this new space that faces out?
Yeah. So a little story behind that. So Mary, of course, like you said, was on that what they referred to as the plank. And so they many times referred to as Diving Board Mary. And as one of our benefactors, Rosemary Kilker, gave the money to build a grotto, and we were going to take the existing space and build a grotto around it. But I was very concerned about that because I was concerned that space, which is very, very popular for people to sit during various times of the year, and then to build a grotto behind it where it was going to be a place for intentional prayer, I was afraid we were going to compete, and really saw it as a chance to kind of reimagine. And so I asked campus ministry or mission ministry or architects and said, what if Mary faces out? And can we use this spot, which is green spot, which we're not going to build upon, but really kind of have Mary so she's facing out, welcoming. And my hope is, and I believe this will happen because it's going to be lit, that people will be invited to come up and pray, to reflect. And it's structured in a way that it's not just a grotto, but it's like this curved arm almost that you come in as an embrace. So it's a gesture of that, come, sit a while, come sit and reflect and be at home. Similar to what we did with the Garden of Atonement here.
Yes.
Right? So in 2020, a year that the pandemic, the political unrest, the racial injustice, and recalling the words of the abolitionist, Peter Osborne, about, no, our forefathers came here, they planted these trees, we plan to intend to stay and eat the fruit. And so a gesture of atonement here. And so we have those apple and plum, and I'm drawing a blank on the third fruit that goes in there. But hope is, and they're starting to put some benches in there, that will be a place where people can come and just take the fruit. It's kind of a university community garden. All are welcome.
One focus of your presidency has been making sure that Rockhurst becomes a home for all, or that becomes more so of a home for all. Why is that important to you, and how does it reflect our mission?
It's very important to me, and we've made progress. We have lots more to do, but I think it's consistent with the vision of Ignatius when he started his group, and he called it Un Compañía de Jesús, a company of Jesus, and recognized that as he was thinking about, okay, God's calling him, but God is calling him to be engaged with others in companionship. So who are those that are not feeling like they are companions? Who are those that are marginalized? Who are those that do not feel like they have a place at the table? And I think we need to keep asking ourselves that question. Not just who's here and do they feel welcome, and if they don't, why? But who's not here, and who's not been attending because they don't feel welcome. So I think that's consistent with Ignatius's call. That we move in this company, we move as companions towards the end for which we've all been created.
So we've made quite a few changes here at the library. What are your thoughts on the future of the Greenlease Library?
So it used to be that schools would brag on their materials and then ultimately on their website about how many volumes they had, right? Now that's no longer a data point. Why is that? We've removed a lot of that. A lot of it is stored electronically, virtually. So what's the purpose of a library? Our library, public libraries, they're commons. It's a learning commons. It's a gathering space. It's a convening space. Again, it's so consistent what we're about. To convene for the conversation, to convene for the understanding of the world in which we live and our place in it, and our work with one another.
So we've also acquired the statue of St. Ignatius since you've been here.
Oh yeah, should we go rub his head?
Yes. So I've heard that students rub his head for good luck.
Yeah.
Do you think that's disrespectful?
No, actually I encourage it. Absolutely I encourage it. Because that statue is Ignatius sitting by the Cardinale River. So after he's struck by the cannonball, spends times in recuperation, and then of course goes off to this little town, Manresa. First goes and lays his sword before Mary at Montserrat, and then goes to the town of Manresa and spends the next close to a year there, 10, 11 months. In seclusion, but also as a beggar, writing the spiritual exercises. And along the Cardinale River, he gets clarity about what is it that God wants him to do. And the clarity is that he sees his own reflection. So that statue was put there in 2010, which was the 100th anniversary of the school, because the university did not have a statue of Ignatius anywhere. So a gift from the Jesuit community, and wanted it to be Ignatius in his moment of clarity. So yes, strongly encourage students, faculty, staff, go and rub the head and say that prayer that you receive clarity about what it is you're about and the decisions you're making and what it is you're facing at this time. Yeah.
One of our most significant projects is the reimagining of Edgwick Hall. What do you think, what does this mean for Rockhurst past and its future?
I think that this building definitely is the link. Right? So this was, it said, the Jesuit residence, there were students residing there, it was the high school, it was the college. It was mentioned earlier, close to 50% of all undergraduate education was there. It was added on to several times. It had a gym. The gym became a theater. It just so many accretions and additions, which is why it was uneven. And I would say to alums that if you came back to Sedgwick, it still had the same sights, sounds, and smells, even from when you were here many, many years ago. So why is it significant now? So we literally took it back to what was just about 90% of the original building. It's all been reimagined. It'll be the new home of the St. Luke College of Nursing and Health Sciences, all high tech. But I think the greatest thing about this is that this building, built over 110 years ago, will start at 1910, finish in 1914. As it's had its place here, so all of the things around it grew up with it. So those trees on the front of Truce, they actually were competing with this. And the depending upon the level of moisture and all, they were, the trees were not getting the moisture they needed, and then so they started to compete with the building. It was affecting the structure of it. By doing this, we've actually created greater harmony. As the result of the work they've done, the trees now are thriving and the building is secure. And I think it's really an example of that we just don't build, that we need to build that's in harmony with our natural environment. So that is the part, when you look at it, to me, I will see it as it's in harmony with our past. It's in harmony with the place it occupies. It's united with the earth that we all have a responsibility for. I will miss Rockhurst, and I will miss Kansas City. I'll miss it greatly. It's been my home, and I feel that it really has welcomed me, the city that welcomes you back, the university community that has very much embraced me and welcomed me. So I'd like to stay. I don't think it's fair for me to stay. I don't think it's appropriate for me to stay because the new president should have the opportunity to be president. So I need to move on. Certainly will assist in whatever way, but I think the best way I can assist is get out of the way. So take a little sabbatical and then prepare for my next work. So I will be moving on to work full-time with prison education. We started our program Companions in Chillicothe with the women and correctional officers there, and very, very proud and delighted that they have now completed 34 college credit hours, and they're on their way to earning an associate's degree. It's our intent to have a similar program in all of the 6 Jesuit schools in this province, and then ultimately in all 27 of the Jesuit schools in the U.S. And so I've been asked to work with the existing programs, ourselves and St. Louis and St. John's College in Belize and Regis and Loyola New Orleans and Spring Hill, as well as Marquette and Georgetown, which already have it, and then ultimately have one in all of them. So that will be my work. I'm excited about that, and I think it will be a great opportunity for me to really be in accompaniment. To me, that's one of the greatest injustices, the fact that we have 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's incarcerated. I don't think our rehabilitation is working. I think it's more punitive. And I think the better model is one of conversion, but a conversion to humanity. And the way a component of that is by educating and forming. So that's where I'm going to be.